Tonight on CTV News, an investigation into a gang-related shooting continues. Tough conditions ahead for Canterbury exporters, business commentator Warren Head explains. And thousands pour through the doors of the Isaac Theatre Royal.
Broadcasting across Canterbury, from the CTV studio, this is First at 5.
Good evening. 3 men who allegedly murdered Christchurch prisoner Benton Parapa will appear in the High Court later this month. The 3 prison inmates have been remanded in custody without plea at the Christchurch District Court today. Parapa was fatally attacked at Christchurch's men's prison several weeks ago. The attack is thought to be a gang-related bashing which put him into intensive care. He died days later. Christchurch police aren't giving too much away when it comes to details into the gang-related shooting over the weekend. The 40-year-old man was taken to Christchurch Hospital on Sunday by 2 men after being shot in the head. Police say the man is in a stable condition, but the gun has still not been recovered. Police are still searching for this car, a blue-green Subaru station wagon. It's the car used to dump the victim at the hospital. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. Well, thousands of Canterburyans have poured through the doors of the Isaac Theatre Royal today to get up close and personal at the historic theatre. It follows its $40 million worth of restoration. The fundraiser will help keep the theatre open for another 2 years, and Marcus Gibbs was among the visitors.
Beverly Stewart first visited the Isaac Theatre Royal nearly 70 years ago when she was just a child. The 77-year-old is back today to get a first-hand look at the freshly renovated theatre.
Just absolutely marvellous.
Beverly's one of many who took the opportunity to visit for a personal tour of the building. Each person left in awe at the extent of their restoration work after the 2011 February earthquake badly damaged the theatre.
Oh, I think you feel like you're in another world somehow.
The steady crowd of theatre-goers growing by the minute, much to the delight of the Theatre Royal's chief executive, Neil Cox. He oversaw the restoration work and is now seeking extra funds to help keep the theatre open for the next 2 years.
We always said to the public in Christchurch that we'd build the theatre. It cost $40 million to do that, but we had to borrow significant amounts to actually make that number. So there was about $2 million in commercial loans. We have to service those. It costs roughly about $150,000 a year to service those.
The aim of the Take the Stage campaign is to raise $150,000 needed to service that loan. The Christchurch Earthquake Appeal Trust will then match that amount. Before the doors opened this morning, nearly $100,000 had already been raised. With 10 days of the campaign left to go, Neil's hoping donations will pour in thick and fast.
This is the second open day and the last one raised about $7,000, so we feel pretty confident that based on the crowd today we'll get close to that number as well.
Front of house manager Kevin Knowles spent the morning leading groups to some of the best seats in the theatre.
Well, this is the gods, or the gallery as they used to call it. We used to climb up here, I think it was 99 steps. But nowadays you can ride up in a nice lift.
This former actor turned staff member very much enjoying being a part of the Theatre Royal team.
It's a great theatre and it's really marvellous to be back, and it's being patronised tremendously.
Seeing this painstakingly restored dome up close, a highlight of the tour.
It's beautiful, yeah, absolutely. It's a credit to the people who've done it all up. And
I just love the dome, I do.
Everyone who comes to the theatre and sees the theatre, it's just overwhelmed, and they just really feel that they're going back in time or going back to the theatre from 10 years ago.
Around 90,000 Cantabrians have watched shows in the Isaac Theatre Royal since it reopened. Tomorrow night, the Phantom of the Opera launches, one of the biggest performances so far. The Phantom himself can't wait for when the curtains open, his first performance at the Isaac Theatre Royal.
You can see it there, my home, my space. I'm just really, really excited to be in here and attacking this show. Full noise in a brand new theatre. It's not often you get to experience a new space.
These theatre fans likely to be filling seats on the opening night. Marcus Gibbs, CTV News.
The search continues for a kayaker who went missing on Lake Coleridge on Saturday. Dive and aerial search rescue teams have so far failed to find any missing sign of the man. He was last seen by an eyewitness disappearing from site less than 200 metres from the shore. The Lake Coleridge access road will continue to be closed while police continue their search. Well, it's the most expensive enclosure ever built at Orana Wildlife Park, and it's pretty transparent. The new gorilla habitat was put on hold after the earthquakes, but $6 million later, it's on track to open soon. Here's Jared McCulloch.
It's a first in New Zealand and will make itself at home here in Canterbury. Arana Wildlife Park's development of this gorilla enclosure is well underway, with the Great Ape Centre starting work back in July last year, a project costing the zoo $6 million to construct. And a member of the Arana team says it's the biggest venture in the animal park's history.
This is the most ambitious project we've ever done and likely the biggest project that we'll ever do, so it's immensely exciting. Our whole team are really excited about it. It's fabulous to see the exhibit progress so quickly.
It's been a massive project in the making, starting back in 2007 as an idea to house 3 western lowland gorillas, being transferred from Sydney's Taronga Zoo as a breeding program to protect the endangered species. But with the earthquakes putting the idea on hold, it's now a busy site seeing an all-male cast soon to be enjoying this new space.
We'll be initially holding 3 bachelors as part of our role as part of the program. So our role will very much be supporting the program by holding offspring, if you like, and also educating the public on the plight of these animals.
It's based half a kilometre down from the wildlife park, and today it was a big job lifting in glass panels for the viewing room of the building. But it's not your typical sheet of glass. This being given the gorilla-proof tick of approval.
It's toughened laminated glass. Essentially what that means is that it's gone through our furnace at our processing facility here in Christchurch. So it's 5 or 6 times stronger than normal glass that you would see in houses, as well as it's been laminated in 2 sheets. So very thick and 6 metres square, so very big.
James says it's been an interesting concept for the Christchurch Glass Company, tasked to make up these massive glass panes, each weighing over 1/4 of a tonne. The glass is 23mm thick, with it being capable of enduring an angry outburst from the gorilla, meaning it can withstand a run-up attack to the glass. After it's been put in, there's only a few other jobs to be done, with the project manager saying the facility is around 85% complete.
We're really down to after the glass here today, we're down to painting, decorating, carpet down and commissioning. There's a lot of landscaping presently being done, a lot of planting. There's in each of the orangutan and the gorilla exhibits, there's around about 1,500 plants that are being planted right now.
At first it'll be the 3 brothers' home, but they'll need to prepare themselves for some new flatmates later on, with orangutans making this place their own too.
So orangutans will arrive about 1 year later, so the facility will first be home to gorillas and then it'll be home to orangs about a year later. So we'll work with the regional breeding coordinator for orangs as well to determine which specific animals come here. There's potentially 3 orangutans that would also come to Arana, but that's yet to be determined through the program.
It won't be long until crowds will gather to see the giant animals up close, with construction expected to be finished up next month, and the gorillas making their way from Sydney soon after. Jared McCulloch, CTV News.
Well, still to come here on CTV News, what will the high New Zealand dollar mean for Canterbury?
With all the latest innovations in the world of technology, Shift has everything you need to stay informed and in the know. Shift, 2:15 on Monday, right here on CTV.
Opus is recreating the heart of Canterbury. From large-scale projects to commercial buildings. Your design, your vision. Opus.
In your life. Colour Steel, the roof of New Zealand.
Diversity. No deposit. Instant finance. Convenience. Open 7 days. Austin Motor Company.
Drive It showcases the new arrivals to the motoring world, comparing and testing the latest models to discover which one is the best. Drive It, Sunday afternoons at 2:30, only on CTV.
Welcome back to CTV News. For the first time in 30 years, New Zealand's dollar has matched the value of the Australian dollar. And while that's great news for those heading across the ditch for perhaps, say, a holiday, it can mean tough conditions ahead for Canterbury exporters. Business commentator Warren Head explains.
So Warren, this is the first time the two currencies are near parity since the New Zealand dollar was floated back in 1985. But what does this really mean?
Well, it's a bit of a surprise that it's happened so quickly, but really the Kiwi dollar has been rising against the Australian dollar over the past year, and it's up about 7%. It's been a quiet rise against the United States dollar. We've been falling, around about 15, 17%. So, that's been taking all the attention off the Australian dollar. And suddenly, over Easter, there it is, sitting at almost a whisker off parity. So that's what it's all about in terms of the media interest in the topic and what it means for the business community.
Okay, so bringing that back home now, what does that mean for Canterbury exporters?
Well, those who are in food and beverage, particularly this is a food basket province, will be looking a little bit harder at how they cut costs back a little bit, because right now their returns off the Australian market are going to come back off by that small degree. In fact, if it goes through $1, it could go to $1.05 quite quickly. These things tend to move rapidly once you're through a threshold point. So, they'll be looking at how they can cut costs back a little bit, which will probably mean a little bit of pain in the office. And they'll also be saying, well, where do we go in the context of other markets as well if it gets really pronounced and we do start to increase at a rather faster rate.
So since you've said that now, are there any benefits for Cantabrians?
Oh yes, definitely, absolutely. The big one, of course, is in terms of equality of our currency with the Australian dollar. That means that it's only it's easier to jump across the ditch to buy holidays. Things come back just a little bit more in our favour, a little less in their favour. So our spending power is up essentially overseas. And of course, what that means too is if you're an importer, and you've got to remember this thing is a two-way trade, bilateral trade being export and import. If you're an importer, your costs are going to fall by that degree as well. What it also means is that importers of product which are reprocessed into exports are also picking up that benefit. So you can't naturally assume that all exporters are feeling a great deal of angst about it. We've grown up with a view over that period of time that a rising dollar is bad for the country and that a weak one is good. In fact, some of the bank economists, particularly Tony Alexander, the chief economist of BNZ, was saying just that today, that we tend to look on that side of things, and really what it's showing is that our economy's performing better than their economy. Our growth rate is better, and right now we have a differential as well in terms of interest rates.
Are there any Canterbury exporters that are likely to be affected more than others?
Yeah, I think probably the food and beverage sector. If you're selling a product that's got a very fine margin into the Australian market, you'll be looking closely at that. The margin will be coming back a little bit because the effect is that the earnings you get out of that market, you have to then translate back into Kiwi dollars when you report it in New Zealand dollar terms back home. So that's where you see it on the balance sheet here. So there'll be some people in that sector in particular who'll be a little bit concerned about the margin. As I said before, if you're an importer, particularly, say, Australian wines, for example, you can imagine, the buying power now in terms of Australian wines, cheap as they are, that might actually start to affect New Zealand wine exporters. So they may start to look more aggressively at other markets.
So what is likely to happen next? Will there be an increase or decrease? What's on the cards?
Well, the fundamentals haven't changed. The reason the currency didn't break parity this week was because the Australian Central Bank failed to cut their cash rate further, and their cash rate is 2.5%. That's the rate that sets all the intrabank lending rates and deposit rates on the other side of that. Our cash rate is 3.5%, so there's a 100 basis points difference there between those two markets. That's fundamental. Our terms of trade are better. The resource sector has been hit rather badly by demand falling out of Asia. We're selling more of our product, which happens to be dairy, into world markets, and IT and software in particular. So our type of trade is different from theirs, and that those terms of trade is what's really keeping the Kiwi up. But you've got to understand too that what is actually happening is the $8 is actually falling. That's the thing you need to look at.
So Warren, what would you give as advice to Canterbury businesses?
Right, okay. You can't predict it. I think, come back to Tony Alexander, the BNZ, he was saying, well, you can't pick the score 5 minutes out from a Rabbitohs rugby league game. You can't pick it. Usually 30 minutes out from a World Cup game. Well, usually anyway. Yesterday in Christchurch, John Key was saying, well, we really can't be directing the flow, if you like, the direction. So what I'd suggest to exporters is you learn to live with it. And if you're picking up on the import side, good. If you're losing a little bit on the export side, I'd get out in that market and I'd spend a lot more on marketing and pick it up through growth.
Business commentator Warren Head. Well, Ashburton residents are being warned to keep an eye out for out-of-control behaviour following multiple acts of vandalism last month. 20 road signs were pushed over and destroyed. The council says vandalism poses a serious danger to motorists.
Vandalism continues to be a costly concern for Ashburton, with incidents increasing over Easter. Ashburton District Council dealt with 20 incidents of road sign vandalism in March and had to replace 5 road signs at the cost of $2,000 in the CBD early last week. There's also been ongoing incidents of graffiti in public areas. Over the Easter weekend, 8 trees around the Ashburton Business Estate were bowled over by a vehicle, and in Ashburton Domain near the children's playground, a bollard was broken. Vehicles also did burnouts on grass areas next to the playground and barbecue area. So far this year, the road sign replacements have cost the council more than $14,000, and the incidents follow similar levels of vandalism in the district last year. The council is calling on the community to report any incidents to council.
Well, still to come here on CTV News, your region's weather. When you need to know what's happening in your region of Canterbury, join me, Chris Lynch, for CTV News First at 5, weeknights from 5, right here on your local channel, CTV.
Computer not working? Replace or repair? DIY or get a technician? Looking for parts? Thinking of upgrading? Need accessories? You've got questions, we've got answers. Global PC.
The preparation, the devotion, the fearlessness, the intensity.
Runway model management. First impressions are everything.
Interiors, made with care, made for you.
Join Graham Sinclair and the team at Gone Fishing as they bring you great stories, fishing tips and beautiful scenery. Gone Fishing, Friday night at 8:30, right here on CTV.
And welcome back to CTV News. If you like a bit of history on the Gallipoli campaign in World War I, I invite you to tune into News Talk ZB tomorrow just after 11 o'clock for the next few Thursdays until the lead up to the 100th anniversary. News Talk ZB is broadcasting a very special documentary thanks to New Zealand On Air and voiced by our very own Leighton Smith. That's tomorrow on News Talk ZB at 11 o'clock. And don't forget, CTV News is always keen to hear from you and your feedback, or perhaps you've got a news tip or story idea. Email our Christchurch newsroom at news@ctv.co.nz. You can also follow CTV on Facebook at facebook.com/Canterbury TV. And this bulletin is also online at ctv.co.nz, and catch up with all the news if you missed it at the 5 o'clock bulletin at 6:30 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. weeknights right here on CTV. Well, now it's time for the region's weather.
Hello Canterbury, it's the middle of the week already. Let's check out today's temperatures. Timaru, Temuka and Geraldine, you're all on 19 degrees. Ashburton and Methven, similar picture for you, 19. Rakaia, 19 degrees also. Darfield, you're sitting on 19 today. As for Leeston and Rolleston, you're slightly warmer on 20.
I'm thinking about how
Lincoln and Christchurch, you both shared 20 degrees. Over in Akaroa today, it was a cooler day for you, 20 degrees.
touch of a hand.
Further north, Kaiapoi, Rangiora and Amberley, you all shared 20 degrees.
Single day, and I just wanna tell you
Culverden, Hampton Springs and Cheviot, the warmest places to be today in the region, 21 for you. Kaikoura, 20 degrees today. Let's take a look at tomorrow's weather now. There'll be some high cloud increasing for Timaru with some northeasterly winds coming through later on. Tonight's low is 10, tomorrow's high 21 degrees.
I'm thinking out loud, maybe we found love.
As for Ashburton tomorrow, it will be dry but mostly cloudy with some breezy northeasterly winds. Your overnight low is 10, tomorrow's high 21 degrees.
And the crowds don't remember my name when my hands don't.
Taking a look at Christchurch now, high cloud for your Thursday with some northeasterly winds. They'll become strong during the evening. Your overnight low is 10, your high tomorrow 20 degrees.
So could never grow old, it's evergreen.
Look out Kaikoura, there'll be some gusty northeasterly winds and thick high cloud all day for you. Your overnight low is 10, tomorrow's high 20.
I'm thinking about how people fall in love in mysterious.
Taking a look at the other areas around the region now, Temuka and Geraldine, it'll be a cloudy day on 21. Methven and Rakaia, similar picture for you as well, cloudy and 21 degrees. Darfield, you'll be on 21, Leeston, Rolleston and Lincoln, you'll all be sharing 20 degrees, expect cloud all day. Over in Akaroa tomorrow, expect some cloud all day on 20. Further north, Kaiapoi, Rangiora and Amberley, that cloud will also be hanging around your area as well on 20. Culverden, Hampton Springs and Cheviot, a very similar picture for you as well. 20 degrees and some cloud.
Maybe we found love right where we...
Looking ahead for Canterbury now, it'll be cloudy and cold by the time Friday comes around with some few light showers here and there and some southwesterly winds. As for Saturday, those southwesterly winds will die out with northeasterlies coming your way. Skies will remain cloudy and the temperatures should be rather cool. It'll be much warmer on Sunday though, with some sunny periods here and there and some high cloud as well, and expect some northerly winds, but they'll pick up later on in the evening, becoming much stronger. But for now, that is your weather for Wednesday.
The ill-fated Redcliffs School received a special performance today from Ed Sheeran. Education Minister Hekia Parada proposes to close this school, but the student spirits were high this afternoon when Ed surprised them with a private concert. The school changed their name to Edcliffs School for a fortnight, and the entire assembly performed their version of Shearer's popular song Thinking Out Loud. This effort saw the school win a radio competition, so to celebrate their win, here's the winning entry. nice. And Ed Sheeran plays tonight at Horncastle Arena. And that is CTV News for Wednesday. Have a great evening.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.